and that's this hole in the rock right in front of you. That is a bedrock mortar made by Native Americans to grind nuts and berries to make a flatbread that they existed on in this area, and this is dated to the Archaic period. That's thousands of years before Christ. This is Martinez Mountain above us. When water runs, it used to run year-round when we first moved out here, but when it runs today or when we have rain, it falls over this rock bar and aerates, and it's the picture that you saw. Wanda Ford, the wife of O'Neill Ford, the famous San Antonio architect, recalled that H.H. Hugman, who designed the Riverwalk, also designed the water features in this neighborhood, and they are numerous. There are many dams, weirs. This is the fishing and boating lake. And the dam that you see over here is named after Theodore Roosevelt. It's called 12-foot by the local residents. Essentially, the way the laws are in Texas, there's not a real clear way for citizens to make their voices heard in an effective manner. The TCEQ wields extreme power in these situations. We are headed to a contested hearing this Tuesday before the TCEQ through the State Office of Administrative Hearings. The way the system is designed, this particular step is about the rules and regulations of the TCEQ. It's basically for the judges to determine, did the TCEQ follow their own rules in recommending this discharge permit? So it's a little different than a regular trial. But you have to cross this hurdle in order to get to a regular trial. And it's quite expensive to do so. And thankfully, we've been able to raise the funds to do that. And we are going to take this as far as we need to. There's a similar case pending in front of the state Supreme Court right now. If you read your paper this morning, there's a wonderful editorial from the Express News about why this is not wise. There's a disaster happening right now in Johnson County, Texas, where they can't drink the water because of PFAS and PFAS that's contaminated. It's a county-wide emergency. So we really can't emphasize enough the potential severity for not only the people in this neighborhood, but for the downstream folks who drink water in 8 counties from the Edwards Aquifer.
It not only can, it will have impact. I really hope that common sense can prevail. I mean, if you look at this creek here, what we're talking about is the headwaters of what is the primary source of drinking water for millions of people, including the entire city of San Antonio. And the question is, should we dump wastewater into this creek that will eventually feed into your faucets? Common sense would tell you that's a really bad idea. And so we're hoping that the TCEQ, the folks in charge with making these kinds of decisions, understand that. And what we need to make sure is that all of the communities that depend on this life-giving water that we've depended on for thousands of years make their voices heard, become aware of this issue and make their voices heard. San Antonio residents, these areas, have spent literally hundreds of millions of dollars of their own money to protect this water. We have one developer who wants to put 3,000 homes in this area that would require a wastewater plant to dump effluent into it. There's a better alternative, and we're simply saying, come to the table, let's work out a fair solution, but the solution is not to dump wastewater into our drinking supply.
If there's not satisfaction with TCEQ, which is a potentiality, does the city plan to invest in legal avenues after that?
Well, we're going to work with Randy and his folks. There is a legal standing procedure that's at the TCEQ, but I am committed as a mayor of the residents who depend on this water to exhaust every option that we have to prevent this development from happening. That is what I think common sense requires and what my residents would expect.
And you had mentioned at the Million Gallon March the free-tail bats, you know, the deal that was struck, and you said that may be a blueprint. Do you still feel like that's potential, even though they're not talking to you?
I believe that is.
Yeah.
And, you know, what it requires is people with an understanding that regardless of the business, there are people that depend on this land and this water, and that's, again, the millions of people who depend on the Headwaters aquifer. It requires them to come to the table. But we're not interested in making enemies out of anyone, but it requires people to sit down and talk and work out a fair solution. We think we have tools to make that happen. There is thousands upon thousands of acres to develop homes and to put properties on that would not be such a detrimental and potentially catastrophic effect on our water supply. And you know, we want to have a fair chance to make a solution on behalf of the public, and that requires Lennar to come to the table and talk about a reasonable solution. Well, Greg, you asked, about the blueprint. One of the tools that we have as a community is the Headwaters Aquifer Protection Program, which has, for the last 25 years, purchased conservation easements or outright purchased property to protect the watershed. We are still doing it. It's been funded by a sales tax approved by voters for 20 years. And it's now funded through capital finance at the city, so we can go faster if we needed to. But that's something that we could leverage as a part of the effort to conserve this important part of the watershed.
Okay. Purchasing the property outright.
Let's have a conversation what that looks like. Certainly that's on the table as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
In the Scenic Loop Helotes Creek Alliance, we represent the largest neighborhood by area in the city of San Antonio, over 6,000 acres. Over 1/3 of this neighborhood is conserved with the EAPP monies that the mayor is talking about. And we think that shows you just how environmentally sensitive this land really is. They've spent $50 million of our taxpayer money, and we're fine with that because it's the right thing to do. But to now allow Lennar to come in and dump 1 million gallons of sewer onto that conserved land makes no sense. So as the mayor said, we've got to come up with common sense solutions.